I walked into the restaurant in search of someone named Azriel. His photo had been taken in dim lighting while wearing a baseball cap, so I really only had the vague sense of looking for someone with dark hair and olive skin. In the photo, he'd appeared Italian or maybe even Middle Eastern. It was hard to tell. Mediterranean of some kind. I asked the host if Azriel had been seated yet, and luckily the man took me straight to him. My stomach was turning with nerves, and I wondered how long it had been since I'd been out on an actual date. Years. "Excuse me," I said to the back of a tumble of dark curls. "Are you Azriel?" The head turned, and there he was. Mr. Dirty Talker from the other day. His eyes widened in recognition. "Uber Brody?" he asked in surprise. I felt bubbles of laughter come up, maybe the first waves of relief that at least it wasn't a complete dud of a date. Yeah, he was too young for me, and sure, he was clearly into some major kink, but at least the dinner wouldn't be boring. At the very least, we could have an interesting conversation, a nice meal, and then we could go on our merry way. I could tell Brody I'd gotten back out there after my multi-year dry spell, and that would be that. Actually, it's Uber Travis, and I think I'm your date for tonight. May I join you?" Yeah. Yes, of course," he stammered, half standing and gesturing to the chair opposite his at the tiny table. "Why did your card say Brody?" I winced. I was subbing for my brother, whose name really is Brody. "And I thought you were deaf, too. Sorry, what's going on here exactly? Is this some kind of a prank?" The poor guy looked a little panicked, eyes suddenly darting around the restaurant, as if looking for a hidden camera. I reached out to put a reassuring hand on his arm, and he jumped, pulling his arm out from mine and wrapping both his arms around his stomach. I raised my hands in surrender. "I'm sorry. Please let me explain. I was standing in for my brother so he could go to a job interview. Brody is deaf. It has nothing to do with you. You just so happened to need a ride while I was doing that." "So, just to be clear, you're not deaf and you're not really an Uber driver." "Correct." I could see the minute he realized I'd been able to hear everything he'd said during his phone sex extravaganza. Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God! His breathing sped up, and I wondered if he might hyperventilate. "Azriel, would you like to get some fresh air?" I asked, as gently as I could. You heard what I... Oh, God. I didn't mean to overhear your private conversation with your boyfriend or whatever, but I couldn't exactly interrupt your call to tell you I could hear everything. Plus, to be honest, I kind of thought what you didn't know couldn't hurt you. So what if I overheard your call? It's not like I expected to be sitting here with you on a date like this, you know? Now I was definitely rambling. I didn't want this poor kid to be so upset. "It wasn't my boyfriend," he snapped, dragging in a shaky breath. I wasn't quite sure how to answer that. "Oh." He closed his eyes. "That's not what I mean. It's complicated. And it's also none of my business," I said. Actually, it was hot, if you want to know the truth. That seemed to stop his panic a little bit. His lips curved up in a tiny smile. "Really? You think so?" I studied him. He seemed so unsure, so naive. Of course. Wouldn't have found that kind of talk hot. His smile widened. "I never knew if I was any good at it. I've been doing it for months now, but my boss is pretty tight-lipped with feedback." I was confused. Phone sex? Wait. Your boss? What? Did this guy just admit to having phone sex with his boss for months? To a man he'd only just met? Azriel's face turned beet red, and his breathing stuttered again. "Fuck. I can't do this. I'm getting everything wrong. I shouldn't have done this. I'm so sorry." He got up and stumbled away from the table, accidentally leaving his coat behind.